You're watching Telesur. This is From the South, from Caracas, Venezuela. I'm Carla Gonzalez. Let's begin. Let's start with Brazil. Citizens have taken to the streets of Rio de Janeiro to reject once again far-right candidate Jair Bolsonaro 5 days ahead of the presidential runoff. They fear that if Bolsonaro wins, he could install an authoritarian government. The movement, called Ele Now or Not Him, says supporting Haddad is the only way to guarantee democracy. Protesters also released colorful balloons to defend Brazil's diversity.
We are here not to cry. We are here to win the elections. Haddad for president. It was a big struggle to get it here. It was a big struggle to fight against the military regime. We want democracy. We want the continuity of a democratic form of government. We did not come here to cry. We are here to celebrate. Today is the celebration of democracy. A democracy on the streets. Haddad now.
Meanwhile, the Workers' Party candidate Fernando Haddad has spoken out on the lies that he says were created as a campaign strategy by his opponent, Jair Bolsonaro.
What they have done against me and my family does not make any sense. They reached a point in which they stole a Bible that was a gift to say they found it in the trash. The bishop who gave me that Bible came yesterday from Fortaleza to Sao Paulo to give me another Bible. They are really the worst of the worst. I am very sorry we have to go through all of this, because it is very sad. It is very sad what Bolsonaro represents.
We talked to Karina Damus, a researcher in political science at the University of Brasilia, to analyze the rise of the right-wing candidate Bolsonaro.
Now, it's very shocking that we got this point, that having this far-right candidate that is openly despises democratic institutions and despises gender equality and despises have a racist and has a homophobic point of views and is gaining support. There is a massive disbelief in politics and the political system in Brazil right now. It also combined with a very strong anti-party workers' feelings, especially widespread, especially among the richest segments of the population.
More than 147 million Brazilians will choose the country's 38th president. So what is at the top of the voters' minds, and how do they rate the campaign promises of both candidates? We have more in our special series.
In this runoff election, no doubt, the stakes are high for Latin America's largest economy. On the one hand, we have Jair Bolsonaro, who is promising to privatize every state company and become closer to the United States. On the other, we have Fernando Haddad, who is promising tax reforms to benefit the most vulnerable and enhance the country's visibility in different international blocs. But what do Brazilians think about these two very different policies?
We are already struggling, and privatization will make everything worse.
Privatization causes unemployment. Every voter has to analyze each proposal and see what is best for Brazil.
Voters are also worried about Brazil's sovereignty.
Unfortunately, I will give my vote to the Workers' Party, but not because I support them, but because there is no other choice. I am against selling the best that the country has. And that is why I am not supporting Bolsonaro.
Privatizing our resources is just an international demand to enter our country.
Experts are also thinking about Brazil's international influence if Bolsonaro assumes office.
He hasn't been clear about his international stance. That is, how he wants to position the country internationally. He hasn't explained any international policy that is not linked to the countries of the North.
Now, the fate of Brazil is in the hands of the voters, who will decide their future on October 28th.
We move to Mexico. The caravan of Central American migrants continues to move through the country despite the threats from U.S. and Mexican governments to break it up. The caravan is made up of thousands of migrants fleeing violence and poverty in their homelands. They are still more than 1,000 kilometers away from the U.S. border. Many people in Mexico are expressing their solidarity with the caravan.
The only thing I can say to people is that they should be more human, that we should look into our hearts and imagine ourselves in their shoes. Because what they're doing isn't easy. Us Mexicans like to criticize Donald Trump for the way he treats our people in the United States. And now we are acting just like him. We don't have any walls on our border, but sometimes we ourselves are the wall.
And babies and toddlers are part of this U.S.-bound migrant caravan. Children who can walk remain close to their parents' side along the difficult journey. Dehydration and exhaustion are the main and most dangerous risks that they face on their way towards a better future.
The children ask when we are going to arrive to the United States because they can't stand it anymore. They don't want to sleep here. They are hungry and tired.
They are exhausted, totally exhausted. We carry those who can't walk. We carry in our arms.
Our correspondent Pablo Perez is at the border between Guatemala and Mexico and brings us this report.
I'm standing on the shore of the Suchiate River. As we can see behind me is the bridge that divides the two countries. Where I'm standing now is an area known as the Coyotes Crossing. Rafts called cámaras continue to move back and forth. They not only carry passengers, but also merchandise. Many of the migrants who came here from Honduras, after seeing that the bridge crossing has been closed by Mexican authorities, decided to instead use these rafts to cross the river and continue on their trek towards the U.S.
Hundreds of Honduran migrants are stuck at the border trying to cross to Mexico. Let's hear from Pablo Perez again.
They have spent more than 4 days here at the border between Guatemala and Mexico.
We want them to open the gate even if they let us through little by little. That is what we are asking God.
Help from the community has been fundamental to their survival. Travelers can get a meal at their makeshift camp thanks to their generosity.
We all been through this, all countries. We are having migrants sometime. My mom was a migrant.
People are still trying to make their way across the Suchiate River. The government of Honduras said that a large part of the caravan has already returned.
He's going to trick his people. Here we are the ones who are hungry, who don't have a job. We suffer each day in the country. There aren't any jobs unless you are with the ruling party.
Women, many of them with small children, say that traveling in large numbers makes them feel safe during the dangerous journey.
We are not going back because what we want is to work. We don't want to go back because there aren't any jobs there.
The president of Mexico, Enrique Peña Nieto, warned the migrants that they won't reach their destination illegally. After more than 10 days on the road and now being stranded at the border hasn't broken their morale. They remain determined.
And Pablo Perez from Mexico. So after the warnings of U.S. President Donald Trump, some migrants have called on Canada to provide them with asylum.
These people love Honduras, but they are here because the country has too many problems. They are refugees, and if they go back, they will be imprisoned or even killed. People are already receiving threats if they ever go back, so what we are asking the world, especially Canada, is to give us shelter, because we already know that in the United States, Donald Trump doesn't want us. The situation in Honduras is critical. That is why people are migrating. We ask for support from human rights organizations and for any country to give us political asylum.
Let's continue with news from the region. Social movements in Honduras plan to march from the city of La Barca to the capital Tegucigalpa to demand the resignation of President Juan Orlando Hernández. Our correspondent Hugo Vera has more.
We are in La Barca, about 4 hours far from Tegucigalpa. Social movements and citizens will start marching in a few hours to ask for the resignation of President Juan Orlando Hernandez. They said the president has to react to the situation the country is facing. They say Honduras is marred by corruption, which according to them has led to the massive exodus. Another issue they say is rampant is insecurity. These events have happened just as there are official calls for an investigation of Juan Orlando Hernandez for corruption.
Also correspondent Hugo Vera. Coming up, we have more stories that you can follow us. We are at Twitter on Telesur English and Carla G Telesur. So send us your tweets on your thoughts. We'll be back.
It's kind of surreal, that I'm sitting on the porch, of my son and his family, and my wife's here. And, a couple hours ago, I was sitting in jail cell, so it's, I'm trying to take it all in and get my bearings.
Everything that our family has worked for, so hard for, it's like the example is here. We're home. And, well, two of us are home at least, that John After's revolution is still going on, and, it's just going to continue to go on. And little by little, it's still happening. And there's still a lot of work to be done. And we just intend to move forward with it.
And we're back. Hurricane Huilla has made landfall on Mexico's Pacific coast. 19 municipalities have been declared in a state of extraordinary emergency. Hurricane Huilla reached Category 5 on Monday but has since weakened to 4. Authorities are making a call for citizens to prepare for the storm. People living on the western coast of Mexico have taken refuge in schools and other shelters to protect themselves. Residents in the cities of Escuinapa and Mazatlan sealed off their windows and their doors with wooden planks. Families have also been evacuated from tourist resorts.
Material objects are just that, objects. Our lives is what they want to be able to return to. If we lack something, I hope God will provide it. Since we left, we go back.
We go to Colombia. On the eve of the teachers' strike, yet another social leader has been murdered. Indigenous teacher José Domingo Ulcué was shot in the chest in the department of Santander. He is the 31st social leader killed since Iván Duque took office last August. Teachers in Colombia are protesting to demand more resources for the education sector. They say the government is not complying with an agreement reached between both parties in 2017.
Teachers in Colombia gathered in front of the Education Ministry to demand to the government it fulfills the agreements reached with the teachers in 2017. Demonstrators have denounced that only 20% of the agreement has been fulfilled.
Since 2001, there has been a decrease of resources for our sector. Resources for education have decreased dramatically during these last 15 years.
A student from public universities also joined the protests. They say the current situation affects everyone in the public education system.
This is an historical debt that the government has accumulated. Now it reaches 40 trillions of pesos that the government needs to allocate for primary school all the way to university system.
According to a public decree, the government tried to use royalties to fund education, but authorities cannot use these resources as they don't belong to them.
They want to delegate the responsibility of the administration resources to local governments. What they want is to privatize education.
The Colombian Federation of Education Workers, FECODE, is looking to create a high-level commission to build a project that ensures education resources.
The majority of the agreement has not been fulfilled. This needs to continue around a negotiation table in order to build a project for health, education, public services, basic sanitation, and drinking water.
Teachers want the government to prioritize resources for the education sector and are demanding a state policy regarding this.
Obviously, the government cannot provide resources immediately, but we've presented a proposal to receive funds gradually for the next 10 years.
Teachers are hoping to hold a meeting with the education minister.
Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel has once again denounced the U.S. blockade against the island. Díaz-Canel took to Twitter to demand a fair compensation to Cubans after 60 years of blockade. He also said he and his people will continue their fight against the United States' aggressions. And the president of El Salvador, Salvador Sánchez Serén, is visiting Cuba to reinforce ties between both nations. The president met with the island's Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, Rogelio Sierra. Sánchez Serén says that Cuban teachers are very important for Salvadorian people, as over 300,000 people have benefited from collaboration programs. He added that both nations play a key role in the region.
El Salvador y Cuba hemos tratado de actuar.
El Salvador and Cuba have tried to act closely in all political scenarios, working towards making Latin America a united region and reinforcing economical ties. For us, immigrating is a human right, and so migrants' rights have to be respected. We're totally against Donald Trump's policy and vision of migration. Salvadorian migrants help the United States economy.
The first national fair for entrepreneurial women is taking place in El Salvador, aimed at making high-quality products available to the people.
75 entrepreneur women are showcasing and marketing garments, shoes, bags, and wallets, as well as handicrafts, food and drinks. Industriousness and the creative potential of El Salvadoran women becomes apparent in the diversity of products.
This is to show that these women are capable of being entrepreneurs and are building their own businesses. They are even providing jobs to other women.
The first National Entrepreneurial Fair is a showcase for Reina Ferrufino, who makes embroidered clothes along with her mother-in-law. They have a workshop in a small town in the east of the country.
Our business increased and we expanded our workshop. We have a team of almost industrial size. We already have industrial machinery, embroidery machines. We give work to 6 women in the community. Besides, this is a family business. My husband, my son, my daughter, even our grandchildren, they all work here.
This fair also reaches people who make handicrafts, art and drawings. That is the case of the young artist Mallory Vázquez, who was trained at the Female Enterprise School and Ciudad Mujer.
They have given me the opportunity to prepare a business plan and gave me the support I needed to make this artwork, because at first I only did it per order, but they convinced me to have an inventory and exhibit it. That's how this started.
Ciudad Mujer has trained over 67,000 women since its creation in 2011. It has also facilitated access to credit for more than 4,900 entrepreneurs at ideal rates, which allow them to empower themselves and gain economic independence.
A group of 800-year-old figures have been unveiled in an archaeological complex in northern Peru. 20 anthropomorphic wooden sculptures were found inside an adobe wall in a corridor decorated with high-relief drawings. These are the oldest idols discovered, which belong to the Chan-Chan culture. Some of the figures have what appear to be shields and others have decapitated heads. We'll take a short break, but stay with us. Welcome back. United States National Security Advisor John Bolton has met with Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss the deteriorating relationship between both countries. Let's hear what both of them had to say.
Frankly speaking, it is sometimes surprising for us to see the United States taking unprovoked steps against Russia, which we cannot call friendly. Basically, we don't even respond to any of your steps, but it still goes on and on.
And to begin, as you indicated, I think President Trump would look forward to seeing you in Paris on the sideline of the celebration of the 100th anniversary of the armistice. Because despite our differences, which exist because of our different national interests, it's still important to work in areas where there's a possibility of mutual cooperation.
The presidents of Nigeria and Benin have inaugurated a new border crossing. This new border post is intended to facilitate movement of both people and goods between two countries. The land border between Nigeria and Benin is the most frequented in West Africa.
Bringing our border administrations closer together in the same place will help to improve their respective performance and the ease of movement of people and their goods.
We need to measure any success in, real changes for people coming to the border post. So in terms of having shorter transition time, having less extortion, not seeing as much corruption taking place, less harassment.
South African authorities will take action to recover millions of dollars stolen from a local bank. Local Governance Minister Zweli Mkhize has told Parliament that he had instructed lawyers to launch a lawsuit on this matter to try to recover the money. The fall of the VBS Bank has been one of the most serious graft cases to rock the country in the last year. As a result of the money lost, the bank collapsed.
This should not have happened. So the only thing that's important is to make sure that we take action on those who are responsible, and secondly, we must then make sure that we pursue the recovery of the money, and in the process is to also make sure that our monitoring is tighter.
Parents and students in Liberia have demonstrated against the closure of a school as a raping scandal came into light. News outlet ProPublica unveiled rapes and sexual abuse cases perpetrated against young girls by U.S. charity More Than Me co-founder Macintosh Johnson. Now, the parents are afraid that the schools managed by the organization could be closed down. The schools are supposedly aimed at saving girls from a life of sexual exploitation.
If the school be closed down, which one of the school be ready right now to take the children in? Because of the stigma and all they want them. Which one of the school be ready right now to take the children in? There is no other school ready right now. So the masses are just coming over here to say things what they're not supposed to say. So now when the parents decide to come on the street to advocate for our children right and our children education.
Hundreds of people have demonstrated in Central African Republic's capital, Bangui, against the dismissal of the President of the National Assembly, Karim Mekasowa. The parliament's vote is scheduled for Friday, and the dismissal would need 93 votes in order to be passed. Mekasowa is accused of alleged breach of responsibility, and political opponents say there are doubts about his finances. In Greece, thousands of people have protested against the proposal of creating three new NATO bases. Protesters were called by the Greek Communist Party. They have chanted anti-NATO and anti-capitalist slogans as they marched. Protesters said bases are used to launch war and spew fire and death against people. Researchers have found the world's oldest shipwreck in the Black Sea near Bulgaria. The Greek trading dates back to more than 2,400 years. Researchers used a remote deep-water camera system to scan the sea floor. The discovery was part of the Black Sea Maritime Archaeological Project that has identified more than 60 shipwrecks in the area so far. And that brings us to the end of the news brief. But this and many other stories, as you know, you can find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. And be sure to also check out our coverage of the Brazilian elections coming up. So, go give it a look. You can also follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm Carla Gonzalez, and until the next time, thank you for watching Telesur, connecting the Global South.